let's talk about rituals and habits. I will start by asking you in the next few days to observe certain things about your routine. When you wake up and you get dressed in the morning, do you always put one arm in your shirt before the other? Do you always put your left shoe on first? When you go to the grocery store, do you always seem to park in the same section of the parking lot, even though there may be spots available somewhere else? Do you have a lucky number or a lucky color or a lucky coin or a crystal that you carry in your pocket to any important event or important meeting, or maybe when you're driving? What other habits and possible superstitions or rituals do you have that you can identify? Because I will tell you that you are not alone in this. We all have them. And I mean all of us. Rituals, habits, superstitions are explained as not entirely rational actions, but sometimes include the belief that an individual can somehow manipulate what's going to happen in the future by engaging in certain behaviors today, even though there is no clear cause and effect relationship between the behaviors today and the outcome they may have in the future. However, if this belief sounds so irrational, how come most people in the world act in superstitious ways every day without even realizing it? Let's look at the psychology behind these habits by observing the world around us. Everywhere in the world, it's a stressful time right now. We've just had a global pandemic that it's not over. We're having an invasion of a country in another country in 2022. And before this, every year we've had some kind of natural disasters. Along history, we've had wars, we've had hunger, we had people suffering. And these are just a few examples of what is going on and what we're exposed to every time we look at our phones, watching the news, or every time we open a TV or a computer. Because the truth is that the only constant in the world, it's change. And these days, change, it's happening pretty fast. Today, we depend so much on technology, and because of it, the global social, political, and economic power are changing overnight. All these rapid changes have brought more uncertainty in our lives, and the natural reaction of humans is that the more unpredictable the world becomes, the more we hold on to as much as we can to things that offer us a sense of control over our lives. The more anxious and uncertain we feel, the more we cling to our known behaviors and rituals to help us move along. A professor of psychology at the University of Bristol in England said that if we remove the appearance of being in control, we become stressed. And superstitions and rituals have been scientifically linked to a human's need for control in a changing, continuously changing world. This is the exact explanation for what happened last year, 2 years ago, during the pandemic, when, because of lack of control over the situations we were in, many people around the world chose to do things like buying toilet paper in bulk, just so they can assert the little control they feel that they can have over their lives in those moments. Some people, when they think of superstitions and rituals, they think of something mystical, even mysterious. But I want you to think of a ritual moreover as a routine, as something that it's not necessarily a secret or bad for us, as many of them have been shown to be beneficial to our mental and physical well-being. For example, if we feed our babies at certain times every day, the children are proven to have a happier and a better life, scientists said. They perform better in school, and they also seem to have better overall health, according to an article published in the Journal of Family Psychology. Observational studies have shown that most individuals around the world perform a common predictable series of rituals from the moment they get up in the morning to the moment they go to bed at night, going through certain stages throughout the day. First, when we wake up, we all tend to brush our teeth, take a bath, take a shower, have some kind of a beverage, look out the window or at our smartphones to see how is the weather. All these actions help us feel a sense of control over whatever that day will bring. The next step, most people are going to eat a breakfast meal with other people or by themselves. They are saying that most people eat together at least once every day. It may be a nice sushi dinner with a significant other, or breakfast with family, or maybe lunch with friends or coworkers. Whatever the exact ritual is for everybody day by day, it has a certain importance as it reunites us with our tribe, making us members of a group. Another ritual is the fact that most humans, one way or another, work on putting out there our best looks, not necessarily clothing wise, but more, it can be anything to bring out the fact that we are confident beings. So we get groomed and we ask our friends for reassurance and validation about that. We also like to talk with one another and plan for what's going to come. And at the end of each day, we all tend to perform certain acts before going to bed at night. No matter where we are in the world, we will turn off the lights before we go to bed. We may lower the heat in the house. We may make sure that the windows and the doors are locked. We may turn on a noise machine or a night light, etc. Psychologists agree that these rituals have everything to do with maintaining our control, or at least the illusion that we are in control, and we all perform one or two or more types of rituals daily. At the same time, we also do some special types of rituals, some of them being based in superstitious or irrational beliefs, and most of us are not even aware of doing that. Let's see an example. Donna is waking up early Thursday morning to see the sky cloudy and heavy with rain. As usual, she sets her alarm clock 10 minutes before her wake-up time, so she has some extra time to get ready. She brushes her teeth, takes a shower, brushes her hair, drinks her cup of coffee, gets dressed, and heads to the office. Before she leaves the house, she checks to make sure that all the windows are closed, and as it may rain, and she makes sure that she turns off the coffee maker. She always steps through a door with her right foot first, because that's what her grandma told her it's good to do. She drives 20 minutes to work in the busy traffic, making sure that she stays in the right lane of the street in order to be easier for her to exit where it's necessary. And once arrived, she parks her car at the third floor of the parking garage because that's her lucky number. While she walks towards the office building, her path is crossed by a black cat. So right away, Donna stops and takes 3 steps back to shake off any bad luck. She gets to her desk, she opens her computer, she checks her emails, as she does every morning. She says good morning to Johnny and to Rita, her coworkers, and she heads over to the coffee room to get her second daily cup of coffee. At noon, she has lunch with her friends. The sun is up, so she decides to work outside for the rest of the day. She goes to her usual Starbucks. She takes a seat at her favorite outside table, and it's available. And she throws a coin in the fountain nearby, making a wish to get her potential client, Mrs. Johnston, with whom she had a cool conversation yesterday and who is exactly her target client. A few hours pass and the third cup of coffee, it's an American example, right? A third cup of coffee, it's over, and suddenly a wave of happiness takes over Donna. when she receives an email from Mrs. Johnson saying that she is on board and she wants to sign up for her packages. Donna is super happy because she got what she wanted, and the wish she made in the fountain apparently came true. Of course, she knew that it was actually because of her hard work, but she couldn't help but to give some credits to that coin that she casted in the fountain earlier. For dinner, she meets with 3 of her best friends, which she kissed on both their cheeks because this was something that she liked. She adopted from vacationing in France 2 summers ago. They chose to eat at a Chinese restaurant that night, and after the meal, she cracked open her fortune cookie, which said, "In life, you have the best of luck," and that made her feel very well. The fortune also gave her some lucky numbers, 5, 22, 34, 37, 39, and 40, so she decided to stop by and get a lottery ticket on her way home because she feels particularly good and lucky today. Once she gets home, she changes into her comfy house clothes. She sits on her couch in her favorite spot and watches whatever it's on Netflix, an episode of her favorite show. Then, as she gets ready for bed, she realizes that tomorrow is Friday the 13th, and for no apparent reason, she feels a surge of anxiety. Therefore, she takes a quick look at her horoscope for tomorrow, and thank God it doesn't say anything bad. It's bedtime, so Donna gets to brush her teeth and gets ready for bed. She turns on her favorite nightlight and puts on her relaxation music playlist. And while in bed, she's thinking that this Saturday it's one of her best friend's wedding, and she is curious what music they will play as her and her future husband are both German. Donna finally falls asleep. What do you think? How many of the things I mentioned in Donna's day do you do every single day the same or in a different way? And do you understand now that most rituals and superstitions have been ingrained in our lifestyles and culture? We just do things and we never think about why we're doing them. This is the same not only for people living in Europe or North America, but for everybody around the world. By the way, have you noticed that if you want to sit in row 13 on any airplane from Air France, KLM, Iberia, or any others, there isn't one? Most airlines don't have a row 13. Bottom line is that from daily behavior to sports, to the workplace, to travel, food, colors, numbers, we are all connected in a way by performing these rituals and having some superstitious beliefs due to our cultures and how we were brought up. You may ask, what do these rituals or superstitions really have to do with what I think and, my decision-making process when I buy things? Well, they have to do a lot with that. For one, because the product and the brands that have some kind of a ritual or a superstition associated with them are much easier to buy again and again and again due to brand loyalty than those brands that don't have that connected to them. As we are continuously searching for stability in the world and familiarity in this all-changing world, our product rituals give us an illusion of comfort and of belonging. There is this sense that you get being part of the iPhone user community or the Android users or the Netflix community or, like in my case, from the Zumba network community or the Udemy instructors community. If you look around, most malls all over the world are carrying almost the same brands. There is a Starbucks there as well, and these specific rituals assigned to each brand actually help differentiating them from one another. And isn't it true that once we start using a certain fragrance and we love it, doesn't it become familiar? And we identify ourselves with it and we want to buy it again and again? Or once we use a certain soap or a certain shampoo, don't we get a sense of stability every time we wash our hair? And that kind of creates, in a lot of consumers, a very serious sense of loyalty towards that favorite brand and product just based on the smell and also the ritual that we perform. It's the same with the food that we eat, the same with the clothes that we wear, even with the printers and cars that we use. It is shown that buying a repeated product, it's more often a ritualized behavior than a conscious decision. Really, when we buy an anti-wrinkle cream, do we even know if it actually works? They show us an image of potentially before and after results. They say if you use this so many times in a day, so many times in a month, in these certain quantities, this is what you're gonna get. However, we also know that none of us is getting any younger and that we are going to, in time, naturally form wrinkles. And we still buy that anti-wrinkle cream religiously every 3 months or when the jar is over. How did we even started using facial creams in the first place? Well, it's a ritual that we've seen in our mothers, in our grandmothers, and, before them. And we follow that because we've always done it. This is simply because most of us are creatures of habit. Think of how loyal iPhone users are to their phone platform and how lost an iPhone user looks like when they have to navigate or find something on a Samsung phone. Wait, the messages button is not in the left side, it's actually in the right? Wow. Also, food rituals as well can be found anywhere in any culture. In America, we eat turkey cooked in an oven for Thanksgiving. In Romania, where I'm from, we eat pork for Christmas and lamb for Easter. All these are traditions and rituals. Sitting down around the table with family, going to church for getting light at Easter, those are rituals. When you eat chicken or turkey, do you break the wishbone? That bone that looks like a V and you make a wish with it? Do you open an Oreo cookie and eat the cream inside first, or do you actually eat the Oreo cookie as a sandwich dipped in milk like the manufacturer thought you will? Well, the truth is, an Oreo is not just a cookie. It's a ritual, according to Mike Faherty, the senior category business director for Oreo. Businesses themselves have rituals as well. When you go to a fast food place like Subway or Chipotle, their foods are constructed in the same order each time. So us, the consumer, know precisely how to instruct the person behind the counter to make our sandwich. You get my point. But superstitions and rituals can take deeper forms than just how we eat an Oreo or how we make a sandwich. There are many other ways that are mostly irrational in which we behave when it comes to products we buy. Let's take shoes, for example. Well, if you know a little bit about collecting things and a potential obsession with an item, you can probably understand that when we buy shoes, we often get involved in habitual, repeated actions that have little or no logical basis. And they come from the love for beautiful shoes. Not always comfortable, but at the deeper level, they come from a need for a sense of control in an overwhelming and complex world. Men like shoes, many of them just as much as women do. So it's not the sex-gender difference here. Our ancestors were hunters and they were gathering things, mostly foods, for bad days in order to survive. And so are we, but not necessarily for the physical survivor, but for the emotional one to make us feel good. In medieval times, collecting was the exclusive activity of the rich. But today, people of all income levels accumulate everything, from Happy Meal toys to shoes to perfumes to books to TikTok videos, etc. Cases of brand obsession in people typically start in the adolescent years and sometimes even earlier as children. Collecting anything from coins to stamps to leaves to dried pressed flowers gives children a sense of completion and control, and is raising their self-esteem while elevating their social status among their friends. The same happens in adults. When we are stressed out or when we feel that life is out of our control, we often seek out comfort in accumulating, buying in bulk familiar products and objects, creating these consistent patterns in our lives. So even though our brains will tell us that it's completely irrational and illogical to own 150 pairs of shoes or any industrial amount of toilet paper, many of us bought them anyways to enforce our illusion of control. Now that we know this, let's move forward to the next lecture and see how religion and our faith can play a role in why we're buying things as well. And before that, I want to say that I hope that you take all this information and think of rituals and habits, think of superstitions as well, and see how you can turn it around and how can you use some of this knowledge that you just got in order to create brand loyalty for your products, for your business offered to your clients.